Welcome to this episode of Our College, Your Voices. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. As we get started today, first a reminder, don't forget that we are reading Hillbilly Elegy this month as a college-wide book read. There is going to be a discussion of the book with a few folks that we're going to record in late April, and that episode is going to air in early May. So if you'd like to read along and offer your thoughts on the conversation, we'd love to hear that. Also, don't forget, I'll go through these all at the end of the show, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on the book and maybe your questions about the book, and I'll give our numbers for how you can leave a recording or a voicemail for us so that we can play your thoughts as a part of that episode as well. So for today's episode, on February 26th of this year, the state of Indiana's Department of Education held its Awards for Excellence Recognition program. This is an annual event in which several Ivy Tech students and programs happen to be recognized. And historically, Ivy Tech is always well represented in this event. One of the students recognized was Lisa Hamrick from Evansville. Lisa and I connected that day through her program chair, Donna Zimmerman, and we decided that our conversation would make a great podcast episode if we expanded on a little bit. So Lisa is located in Evansville, and we were not able to coordinate our schedules to record in person. So you might notice just a little bit of audio quality difference today, but as always, we'll do our very best to bring you the best quality conversation possible. And with all of that out of the way, I am excited to welcome Lisa Hamrick. Hi, Lisa. How are you today?
Wonderful. My name's Lisa, and I am from the Ivy Tech Evansville, and I'm in the Advanced Automation and Robotics Technology program.
And so, Lisa, I know you changed majors from cybersecurity to automation and robotics. Can you talk a little bit about why you're clearly interested in technology, so maybe a little bit about why you're interested in that, and then what made you make that change?
I've always been fascinated with technology as it's advanced through my lifetime. I remember when internet was something that not everyone had, and now it's readily available. So the accessibility and the convenience, it's fascinating to me. I was in cybersecurity because I do enjoy technology, and it was a great program. And then I was asked to help with the robotics club at Ivy Tech because they were talking about shutting their doors. I went down there, talked to Donna about how to market it to get more people interested, and I walked out the president of the club. So I'm not sure how that one happened.
I know Donna well, so I'm not at all surprised that happened to you.
Yes. So I went and I started going to robotics club meetings. I got to help with a wheelchair project for a student named Austin. This wheelchair got to stand up. They had to be power tools, and I was in love. I got to help with the Tap Light project that helps modify toys for children who don't have fine hand or motor movement. And I realized something. The time that I was spending doing that was like therapy for me. It was like the happiest thing I could ever do. So I changed majors because it made me happy.
Excellent. And what made you decide to come to Ivy Tech? What did your career history and your personal history look like prior to coming to Ivy Tech, and what made you decide to come be a student with us?
I had worked a lot of different jobs, one in a foundry called Wapaka, and I realized something. I was working 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. We only got off for major holidays. And unless I wanted to do that for the rest of my life, I needed to go back to school. So I started researching. Ivy Tech had the lowest tuition in the state of Indiana. It was an accredited college. And at the time, there was one in Tell City right next to where I lived at the time in Hamilton, Indiana. Well, unfortunately, they didn't have a lot of the classes I needed to take there, so I had to come up to Evansville. But the real reason I went into college was because I want to use my brain to make a living instead of having to do all the physical labor that comes with working in factories on a production floor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is obviously what you're studying. It sounds very different from what you were doing.
It is. Robotics and automation is different in some senses. But at the same time, I did work around robotics. I worked at a place called ATPC, which takes products from places like Robotica and finishes them off for car parts. And when I took things out of a machine and moved to another machine, which was basically a giant robot.
Right.
Now I get to be the person who works on that machine.
That's awesome. So in the robotics club, you already talked about the powered wheelchair, and I think that we have a video of that I can link to in the show notes so that other folks can see that. But what other kinds of projects are you doing in the robotics club and in your courses?
Right now, we are working on prosthetics for people who have an upper limb differential. That means missing part of their arm from below the elbow, between the elbow and the hand. So we work on a lot of that, which is so much fun. I just recently got done with a prototype working with Donna and Jesse, I believe it's Hagler. And what it did was there's this little boy. He can't, he's wheelchair bound, but he scratches his face. So they have to keep him restrained or his hands in gloves to get him from hurting himself. So we created an elbow limiter. He has range of motion where he can move his hand out, but he can't get close enough to reach his face. So that really helped him, and he was so excited about it when I got to take it to him. His face just lit up when he realized, I don't have a sock in my hand's free, I can move. That's one of the funnest projects, as well as any of the prosthetics. One of the little boys we're making one for now, his name's Pascal, and he wants to be able to help on his family's lot farming. And I just found that inspirational that he wants to help. So that's a lot of what we do now is the prosthetics.
Right. And that was actually when you and I met in February, that was a big part of our conversation was the work that you are inspired to do to try to help people with mobility challenges and things like that. And I know you've been to EnableCon. Can you tell folks what that is and how that ties into your work with the Robotics Club?
Enable is an international nonprofit that you make prosthetics with them, and it's open source. So if we make a prosthetic design, anyone in the world can 3D print that for free. We don't patent them. So if we make one here at our Ivy Tech in Evansville, and someone in Tanzania wants to 3D print that for someone who's missing a limb, all it's going to cost is the amount of filament they use. It's not going to cost, but then the recipient, the person receiving it, doesn't get charged anything. And it's an amazing program because of that.
And for those who listen to the podcast on a regular basis, that same open concept is what allows us to bring like open educational resources to our students. You're doing that with robotics and assistive technology.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that is so cool. How long have you been involved with EnableCon?
We have been a chapter for over a year. I want to say it was in February of 2018 when we became an official chapter. Before that, we talked to them, did a little bit of work with them. But it's been over a year at this point.
Very good. As I mentioned in the intro, in February, you were honored for winning an award for excellence from the Indiana Department of Education. And the criteria for the award for excellence is excellence in your coursework, leadership, and special certifications. Can you talk a little bit about sort of why you think, what you've done as a student that you think the selection committee really honed in on to honor you with that award?
I do try very hard in all my classes. So I think coursework did have something to do with it. Also leadership at Ivy Tech. I am involved in a total of 5 clubs that currently hold offices, including the Student Government Association, the Campus Activities Board, Circle K, Robotics, and also GSA, which is the Gay Straight Alliance. So at any point in time, I am taking the leadership role and helping students. I also help beginning of each semester, help students find their way around campus. So leadership, I think, had a lot to do with it as well. I am a student leader at our college. I am always trying to advocate and help our students with whatever they need. There's a lot of that, especially with the SGA. You have to do that with SGA because we're all about advocacy.
Is that who you've always been? Like, was that who you were when you were a high school student? Is that were you a natural leader on your job, or is that something that you've really come into while you've been here at Ivy Tech?
It's when I was at Ivy Tech. My first semester there, I applied to get involved in something called the Student Leadership Academy. I went through the Student Leadership Academy, which helped students become better leaders. I also got involved in our local student life, which helped me hone those skills. They also turned around and gave me a job as a work study to be able to learn how to become a better leader, as well as help me with interpersonal skills and things along that line.
Excellent. Excellent. And I don't think we've talked about Student Leadership Academy on the podcast before, but I will try to pull some information to put in the show notes for folks who might be interested in it. And that's definitely an episode we need to talk about. You might get to come back on again if you wouldn't mind to talk about that experience.
Of course.
Good. I had the privilege of meeting your 2 daughters when you accepted your award in February. How do you think you going into a technology-related field, we hear a lot about girls in and women in science and technology, engineering and math, STEM fields. What do you think it means to them, or have you talked to them about seeing their mom in a very high demand technology field?
We've talked a lot about things along the lines of pink tax, where you're taxed for something just because of it's pink, which is razors. So they understand that as women, things are going to be more expensive to you just because you're women. I've also talked to them about the 80 cents on the dollar, where women make 80 cents to a dollar compared to men. And I've told them that in life, you're going to have to fight to get where you are. You can have the same education, the same grades, everything is the same as a man, but there's a chance you're going to get passed over, and you need to understand that. They also, since they do understand that, they try harder. The other thing I talk to them about is, what do they want to do? What makes them happy? My eldest daughter, she's actually in the early college program at Ivy Tech. She's going to go for robotics as well because she's interested in that. And she wants to also do English. She wants to go to school to teach English and robotics. Because when we were talking about it, just doing English, there's a lot of English professors out there. If you have English and robotics, then you have dual classes that you can teach. And then my younger daughter, she's debating on whether to become a nurse or a doctor because it fascinates her. The human body and conditions fascinate her. So both of them are going into them related fields.
Good. That's fantastic. Do you, and I had a mom much like you. I went into STEM fields, and I never thought twice about it because I knew it would be harder. And I think it's such an important acknowledgement for us to make for the women, the other young women in our lives, that look, you're going to work harder, and that's okay. You just have to know it, and we have to keep fighting so that it doesn't have to be that way someday. But I applaud you for that. So very good. And your daughters are great. I loved meeting them, and hope that we get to connect again in the future. They were so proud of you that day, and they absolutely should be. So when are you gonna graduate?
I graduate May 2020, but I will have to go the semester after because I'm going to be graduating with 2 degrees, one in advanced automation and robotic technology and another one in industrial maintenance.
Excellent. And what do you plan on doing after graduation?
After I graduate, I'm going to go work in the field for 5 years while I'm working on my bachelor's, and I plan on teaching after that. Coming back, hopefully at Ivy Tech, I can become a professor because I do enjoy Ivy Tech so much.
Good. I think growing our own faculty it's something we sort of use as a phrase around Ivy Tech, that we want to grow our own, and we would love to welcome you back and keep you in the family. So definitely pursue that plan, and we will gladly welcome you back. So we talked a little bit about you sort of walking into the robotics club because you heard it was going to close your doors. I guess as a cybersecurity major, why did you go into that conversation, and what made you decide to really okay, I'm going to save this thing. I'm going to do this?
So the director of student life, Tennille Baxton Vaughn, she came to me and she said that they were going to close the robotics club, and she knew I loved technology. She also knew that my eldest daughter was thinking about doing robotics. So it was at her request that I went and talked to Donna. And what I did to save it was it needed members. A lot of students automatically hear robotics and they think they have to know robots. They need people to sew things. They need people to solder. We need people to market. There's not a million, but there's a ton of different jobs they can do besides just knowing how to wire up a robot or build a robot. So that was explaining to people why it wasn't just exclusive to robotic students and how they could help. We've had students from welding, human services, early childhood education. We had someone from culinary come and help us at one point. Just explaining to them, this is not program-based. This is open to everyone. And nobody else can play with the toys. You may learn something. That's a lot of our students do.
Absolutely.
What I did was I went and made flyers. That's what I had learned to do when working with CAB before, the Campus Activities Board. And every 10 feet in that school, I put a flyer.
That's a lot of mileage to cover because that's a big campus building.
Yes, I had a lot of steps that day.
Well, it obviously worked, and I know that you have made Donna incredibly proud and all of us proud. I know that many of the projects that you do are part of service learning. And we talked a little bit about this with EnableCon, but this is more sort of the curriculum. Can you talk a little bit about the differences from a student perspective between sort of I'm going to use air quotes around a normal or a typical class project, and a service learning project which has some sort of additional benefit to the broader community? What's the difference for that for a student like you?
First of all, when you're in the classroom and they give you a chance to do a hands-on project, it's more fun, especially when we get to build something that's going to help someone. You tell me, oh, you get to make this trinket. I want you to 3D print a trinket, a keychain. Okay, that's kind of cool. But if you tell me, oh, you get to 3D print a prosthetic that's going to help someone be able to lift up a cup and drink out of it, that is more fun. That is something I want to stay for. One of the projects they had, and I can't remember the class, unfortunately, was the tap light project, where you go through and you have to set it up in an assembly line so that everyone can make the tap light. So, let's say you came in, you walk in, you have no idea what the tap light project is. You can follow the step-by-step guides. The tools are in what's called shadow boxes, and you know exactly what to do and how to do each step of that process, depending on where you are on that makeshift assembly line. That is a service learning project. And students we're very passionate about it when it helps them. Going out in the community is a little different. A lot of times we work with kids. We went to a daycare. We went to SEMO. We got to show these kids robots. We just got to play with them. A lot of times we go out with the community, we're just showing the fun stuff, which is great, but it doesn't show them everything we can do with robotics. It shows them in this very limited capacity, such as Pleo. We have a little dinosaur, it's Brachiosaurus, and she's adorable. Kids love her. They flock to her because it's a baby dinosaur. And you're sitting there, you do get to explain to the kids, this is a sensor. If you pet her, you're nice to her, she'll be nice and learn faster. But if you're mean to her, she's going to learn slower. So the difference when it comes to the community, we have to use a lot of layman's terms to explain to them what this does. When we're working in the classroom on a service learning project, everyone next to us has kind of the same understanding, and we can create more fun stuff in our minds. So one of the things we 3D printed was a hand that we're trying to get it where it'll work with sensors. So you take a sensor, it's hooked to a muscle, person flexes their arm, the hand closes. That's more fun in the classroom for us, and it also helps us as students understand inputs and outputs, which is a very big thing in robotics. So that's something we could do outside the classroom. That's a fun service learning project when you have to wire up something to make it work.
Right. Well, and it sounds like when you're talking to kids in the community, you have to sort of take this really high level stuff and simplify it. But when you get to work on those bigger projects in the class, you get to deepen your own understanding. And that always feels to me like a loop. Like you get better at simplifying the more when you see even more complexity in something. I don't know if you've ever seen that as you're working on robotics projects or not.
Yeah. One of the things is when you can explain something to a 6-year-old, that's a very complicated process, and you can take it and say, basically, this does this to a 6-year-old, that means you understand it.
Right.
Because they don't understand everything. You have to make it very simple for them to get, and it's fun though. But in the classroom, we're working with others. We also feed off one another. One of us say, "Oh, I think we should do this," and no, maybe we should do this way. And by the time we're done, what we've come up with is not anything like what any one of us thought we were going to wind up with. So it winds up quite differently, but it's amazing when we're done.
Well, and that's the best part about it. You're creating something new. So your first version is just one iteration, and then you get to keep making it better. Well, I want to thank Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. As everybody who listens on a regular basis knows, we end every episode with a call to action. So I have 2 for you today. First, remember that we are inviting you to read Hillbilly Elegy with us and call in if you have comments on the book. I'll give you all of those numbers and email address in just a minute. And the second one is we would love to feature more student stories like Lisa's. So if you have an exceptional student like Lisa and we could feature that student on the podcast, please reach out and let us know how to do that. And again, I'll give you all that contact in just a second. So thank you again for joining this episode of Our College, Your Voices. And I want to thank Lisa one more time. And Lisa, I want to congratulate you on winning the Awards for Excellence. It was really great to meet you that day and to talk to you today. So thank you again. I am your host, Kara Monroe. You can connect with me as always on Twitter at KNM Tweets. Our producer is Ann Penny Valentine. Ann is on Twitter at Indy Penny. Special thanks to Donna Zimmerman for helping us set up today's episode and conversation. You can reach us by email at ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. And again, that email address is ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. You can leave us both a typed message that we might read on a future episode or just general messages, as well as you can record a voice memo on your phone if you have a voice recorder app and send it to us by email. You can also leave us a voicemail message at 317-572-5049. Again, that number is 317-572-5049. Our website is ivytech.edu/podcast, and it's maintained by Tracy Allen. Production assistance for this and every episode is provided by Becky Campbell, Sarah DeWitt, and the Ivy Tech Community College marketing team. Special shout out to Becky and Sarah for helping with all the coordination and scheduling between mine and Lisa's schedules for this episode. And our podcast concept is by Matthew Pittman. Our theme music and post-production services for this episode are provided by the incredible Jen Eads at the Brassy Broadcasting Company. And we will see you next time on Our College, Your Voices.